am Richard Stanley. C'est moi, author, filmmaker, rogue anthropologist, paranormal journalist, and veteran of 1,000 psychic wars.
I want to invite you to a new world. To my world. A shadowland that exists one step away from what you take to be reality. A slide zone between fact and fiction. Fact and truth. A place where magic and miracles still hold currency. The other world lies sublime, out of space and out of time.
Episode 5, Hidden History with Hamilton White, Part 1.
Welcome to the other world. We have with us here in Shadow Theatre headquarters in the heart of the Devil's Pentagram, Relic Hunter, Hamilton White. And we're going to attempt to unpack for the general public, I think for the first time really, the true story of the Tomar Horde, which really was the thing that
Templar, isn't it?
Yeah, the Templar treasure trove that formed the basis for the recent History Channel show Lost Relics of the Knights Templar.
Oh God! I mean, this is a very, very long story because it's a project I've been on for sort of 12 years now. To try and wrap it all up in like 15 minutes. Oh God, we're going to give it a go. But what do we do?
I guess I can start with how it came into my life.
Yeah, that's
I was completely unaware of the Horde's existence, and indeed unaware of Hamilton's existence, until I can't remember which year it was. Must have been
5 years ago.
About 5 years ago. A certain Anglo-Irish Grail historian named Tim Wallace Murphy, who was based in the nearby town of Esperanza, held a little soiree, a private lecture at the castle of St. Feriol to an invited audience. And at this gathering, Tim showed a series of slides of an alleged Templar treasure that had apparently been unearthed in Tomar. And I could see at once from the slides that the relics looked genuine. It was certainly a seriously impressive find. But also from the way Tim presented the facts, it was deeply unclear where the relics were now.
Yeah.
He obviously didn't have them with him, otherwise he would have showed them to the audience. And I think also Tim was very ill-advised in actually disclosing that material to even the invited audience that was there, because not long thereafterwards, Tim was dead. And under rather murky, shady circumstances, and not long thereafterwards Hamilton contacted me.
He did, yep, that's correct.
And reached out and asked if I would appear on Lost Relics of the Knights Templar.
Correct. Right. Now, I'm Hamilton, and I've spent my entire life being totally anonymous. It wasn't just Richard who didn't know who I was. The whole world didn't until I popped up on TV. But I've been involved in the sort of the antiquities world and the collecting and trading of antiquities and all sorts of things. And quite by accident, and without going into boring details, I ended up in Portugal on the trail of something that I'd been told of that I really didn't think existed, because you heard so many stories of missing Knights Templar, this, that, and the other. You know, we've been hearing these stories all of our life, and these legends have been going on for sort of 700 years. So you sort of think, oh, this is nonsense, really. But I did end up with some very interesting pieces that quite clearly indicated that they were Templar origin. They'd been in Portugal. They'd left Portugal at some point before 1970. Oh, bloody, it was a whole chasing around of what I thought was kind of probably some wild goose chase. But what transpired over a period of years of being a wonderful find Totally unique. There's nothing comparable of what we've now absolutely established are 100% genuine Knights Templar ceremonial pieces. Very briefly, there appear to have been a find made in 1960 in a place called Tomar, which is in northern Portugal. Now, Tomar was the capital city of the Templar kingdom within Portugal in the sort of 12th, 13th century. And I'm sure most people are familiar that the Templars basically ceased to exist around, they were officially dissolved in 1314, but the members had been arrested several years before then, and basically they'd gone. And there's always been this rumour that some Templar treasure disappeared from Paris prior to the arrest of the Templars because, well, they'd been tipped off. And it was always said that some Templar pieces came back from the Holy Land towards the end of the crusading period, when basically the Christian forces were defeated. The Templars brought back with them some unknown treasures that were sacred to them. Now, what I appear to have, the important pieces are a group of ceremonial vessels, chalices, dishes, plates, all things that are purely ceremonial or ritualistic rather than domestic or utility things. There's some very unusual materials being used, such as obsidian, which it's a very difficult thing to work these days. So going back 700-800 years, to work obsidian with the tools that were available at the time was almost impossible. There's other pieces, nice decorative carvings, there's grave slabs, tombs, little portable altars, all curious things that really don't correlate with anything from what you would call the traditional Christian church of the same period, and nothing else that actually exists, because when the Templars were removed from the face of the earth, shall we say, so was everything they possessed. Everything that was paper, and the majority of the documentation was burnt. Templar symbology on gravestones, on buildings, was defaced. They simply became heretical in the eyes of the church, and the church was all powerful, so they had to be eradicated from history, which is why so much about Templar history is oral and conjecture, because such a tiny amount of actual written evidence survives from that period. Trying to piece together what's factually correct, that you're honestly prepared to stand up and say, this is something I can prove, as opposed to what the majority of people say is, this is what I think or this is what I believe, has been a very long process. And I was on it 10 years before I even revealed to people who know me or friends of mine, let alone going on TV or writing books about it, before I was comfortable to actually say this stuff is real and I'm going to stake my reputation on it, which is how, through television, I then met Richard, and we've been working on it. And what we're doing sort of, I don't know if the word is cross-pollinates, but certainly we've got a crisscross of interests in the Occitanian region here, and Richard's interest in the Cathars and alternative religions. Yeah. And we've been working together now for quite a few years, and it's great.
Well, let's cut straight to the chase here. I mean, I guess the common denominator here is really the Holy Grail.
Yeah. I
mean, I've said it. And rewinding on what you were unpacking a moment ago, I understand that the obsidian has also been matched to a vein of obsidian in a quarry in Jerusalem in the Holy Lands.
Well, there's various aspects to this, because there are two of the Templar Horde vessels that are made from obsidian, and we've matched that obsidian to various types that come from modern day Turkey, that going back to the sort of Templar period, it wasn't Turkey, it was Armenia, but Armenia has vastly shrunk, and the obsidian mines that were in Armenia are now in Turkey. And the work on those two particular chalices does appear to be Byzantine craftsmanship, because it's very unlikely that any sort of more Western craftsman would have had the skills to work obsidian going back to the sort of 12th century, which is where these two pieces appear to date from. Now, there is a third piece that hasn't really been released, and there aren't any photographs existent at the moment. And this is the piece that's going to be the final, I suppose, piece in the jigsaw, I would say. And it's a lot earlier, and it appears to be made of a form of obsidian through which there is a seam of it that's existing, and it is a unique form of obsidian that's only found in a small seam that I think is actually closer to Bethlehem rather than Jerusalem, but I couldn't tell you exactly without going through all of the notes. And it's a vessel. Sorry for being a bit vague, but this is sort of information that we're on the point of, God, how do we deal with this? It's very awkward.
I mean, it's not just awkward. People have been dying because of this.
It's a problematic piece, and when you can refer to, well, it's the Holy Grail. Well, hang on a minute. What actually is the Holy Grail? People have said for thousands of years that, well, it's a vessel, it's a platter, it's a cup that collected Christ's blood. It's all manner of things. The sort of the Grail quest and the Grail hunting can mean an awful lot of things. And there are people who will swear blind that, yes, it's a physical object, and there are other points of view that will say, well, actually, the Grail is something that you find within inside you. So turning around to say, well, these chalices you have, they are the Holy Grail. Well, that depends how you look at it. Of course they're not. They're not. It's not something that Jesus Christ was using, but in the sense of the Templar world going back 700-800 years, these pieces were the most significant things that the Templars owned. They were the purest and most important ritualistic vessels. Now, bear in mind, at the time the Templars fell, they owned something like 15,000 properties between the Middle East and the west coast of Europe in Portugal. And the fact that out of all these 15,000 properties, nothing, not a single item has ever been found other than this Templar hoard that I have that was found buried in Tomar. What you can almost say is, well, if you were a Templar living 700 years ago and you were shown this obsidian vessel as part of your initiation process or as part of your moving upwards within the order of the Templar itself, because we don't know precisely what these were used for, perhaps in your mind that was the nearest thing to the Grail that you were ever going to be allowed to touch. It's all conjecture, and it's how you view the Grail itself. But the quest, I mean, that's what it is. It is the Grail quest, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the quest that ultimately brings us together. And there's many, many things that can be a Grail that can rightfully be called the Holy Grail, because the definition of what a Holy Grail is keeps changing and has been changing for hundreds of years. In point of fact, it's kind of a pre-Christian symbol that got itself Christianized at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, when the Grail was first introduced to us in Wolfram von Eschenbach's 12th century texts, stone, a black bleeding stone. In Chrétien de Troyes' version, it's a dish, a big golden serving platter with a Christian fish symbol on it, the Vesica Pisces. The dish described by Chrétien de Troyes actually exists and is in the collection of the Louvre Gallery, something that was proven by esoteric researcher Mark Oxbrow. This is rightfully the Holy Grail of Chrétien de Troyes. Then some people say the Holy Grail is the blood of Christ. Well, Dietrich of Alsace brought back what he believed was the blood of Christ and gave it to the town of Bruges. And in the middle of present-day Bruges, there's the Basilica of the Holy Blood. In the middle of it, in a glass test tube, in a glass vial, is this alleged blood of Christ, which is the Holy Grail of for Dietrich of Alsace, the town of Bruges. They venerate it. It's a little bit like the green gunk you see in the tube in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Super weird, but it's there, and almost every day they literally are performing rites to venerate this tube of holy blood, which is legitimately the Holy Grail. the Cup of Valencia has a decent claim on being, if not the Cup of Christ, it's certainly a very
It's
early
2,000 years old, isn't it? At least the Valencia.
proto-Christian ritual vessel, and it's also the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's the fabled Cup of Abraham, the part of the treasure of
The Second Temple in Jerusalem.
the Second Temple in Jerusalem, the treasure of the Temple of Solomon.
Yeah, but I mean, sort of flicking back onto the Tomar Horde story, the initial find of somewhere between about 25 and 35 pieces was made totally by chance, we believe in 1960, by some Portuguese youths who were actually searching for Roman graves. The simple reason because Romans tended to be buried with jewellery and coins and valuables, and these little guys were simply looking for silver and gold, anything that could be sold as bullion. And what they actually dropped upon was this Templar Horde, which they didn't recognise what it was. And in all honesty, in 1960, it probably had no commercial value at all in Portugal, because simply there was no antiquities trade. Portugal was the poor person of Europe, and unless you had silver and gold to sell, probably an ancient item had no value and no interest. Somewhere before 1970, an awful lot of these pieces ended up in Switzerland with someone who was an antiquities guy who was going to Spain looking for things and going into Portugal. They were split up again, and by the time I got involved 10 years ago, you know, they'd been out the ground 50 plus years and had been dissipated. And somehow over the last 10 years, I've been chasing every lead. And as far as I know, I've pulled in, I don't know if I've got everything because I keep being surprised. And, you know, I don't claim to know everything. I'm learning all the time about it and learning new bits of history, because the stories are all oral from 1960. Nothing's written down. But it does appear to be correct that this main hoard was buried in 1960, and I think I've pretty much reassembled everything. But within the last, well, it's only 6-8 months, some other pieces have come to light which don't really fit into the group that I have. The conditions are all much worse of the items. And I was hearing various stories from some Portuguese people, including a couple of academic guys who were very anti-me to start with, but now actually seem to be coming on board, that there was actually an earlier find made in the same town somewhere around 1937, 1938, by a German who just happened to be working in the town and digging, and somehow the Portuguese military got involved and were helping him with the digging. He then disappeared. There was no explanation of what was going on, but lots of stories around the town that somehow the army had found something, there was a great find, and it was all gone, then it was all hushed up. But again, you know, we're now talking something 80 years ago, but this does now seem to have been confirmed. And the separate little group of vessels, of which I think there's 7 or 8 pieces, I've now tracked those down, and most, if not all, fingers crossed, are going to come to me and should be back in a little group within the next few weeks. And that's opened up a complete new line of research, because this crisscrosses with Richard's interest in Otto Rahn and the hunt for the Grail by the Nazis, and Himmler's interest in the whole Grail story and Grail mythology. So as and when this little group of pieces are sat on the table, we've got a whole new sort of kettle of fish to study and try and bang our heads against the table to get academics to cooperate with us, because really we're in the same position that history of the Templars and the academics who've been involved in the Templar world have preset what they have decided is going to be the Templar history that you're going to be allowed to know about and be taught. And people like us that actually have some factual evidence to put on the table, we'd rather be hushed up and, oh, we should go away. You're a pest, aren't you, going on about your facts and figures?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, there are unscrupulous individuals out there who would like to kill or silence us.
Yeah.
Or at least make certain that anything we turn up is discredited and is not placed before the public. And I think as we found out, the folk we're up against will stop at nothing.
Oh, there's no limits at all. No.
And the real life circumstances weirdly resemble a sort of cross between not just the Indiana Jones franchise, but the Maltese Falcon. I'm frequently reminded of the basic plot arc of Maltese Falcon, where, as we may recall, everyone is looking for the treasure of the Knights of Malta. Well, in this case, they're looking for the treasure of the Knights of Tomar.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've got our very own version of Caspar Gutman and Peter Larray and Elisha Cook Jr. It's been spectacular. The stuff that dreams are made of, and I guess it's always the case with the Grail Trail. It's the moment you're about to put your hands on the sacred object, the very next thing you hear is the sound of a gun being shot.
Somebody wants to snatch it away from you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just turning the corner now, hopefully. That the last 2 years have been very, very hard, because the problem the academics and the powers that be have got is you can't discredit the pieces because they're phenomenal. We've had some basic scientific study done on a lot of them, the methods of production, the degradation of the materials. Nothing can be criticised. The items are 100% genuine. So you can't knock the item. So if you can't knock the item, what you can do is have a go at the person. So I've had 2 years of people actually trying to discredit me on the basis if Hamilton White's a thicko or he doesn't know what he's talking about, then it's not worth listening to him about his clutter and his objects and anything else he's got. And it's really been digging deep for the last 2 years to try and turn this around. And finally, there are a few people who are now in private prepared to put their hands up and say, well, actually, yes, everything you've said is correct. What you have got is very, very good. And I think within the next few months, there's going to be a sort of serious flip round. And there are going to be some people who are going to sort of now put their head above the parapet and say, well, actually, you know what? This study group really merits some proper attention. And I'm happy to give it. The moment some proper people stop criticising me and stop trying to alter history, I would be delighted if I could get this stuff out on public display. Nobody's seen it for more than 800 years, and it would just be phenomenal if we can get a great exhibition and then everybody can come and make their own mind up. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I genuinely don't know, but everybody should have the opportunity to come and look at this. It's the most important group of Christian, whether it's what you would call fundamental Christianism or slightly corrupted Christian views, I don't know. But the mere fact is it exists, and we'd really love to see it out there in the world. We'd love to get it over to America because I think it would be far more popular and far more open-minded people coming to look at it. But for the moment, we've just done a couple of little books on it, and we're sort of battling on, and hopefully we're going to do a YouTube channel and start talking about the pieces. Because again, trying to get it on TV, trying to get a serious documentary made about it, it's just proving impossible. History on TV, they seem to want lightweight fantasy rather than actual serious, let's try and establish that there's some great history out there. This TV just doesn't seem to want to swallow it. So, there we go.
So, what I have here is...
what's that one?
The
that's Timber.
Horde, which is the I guess the catalogue of the Horde.
This one here is the book I employed the late Tim Wallace Murphy to write, which it's okay, but there were problems with Tim. He was at the end of his life. He was trying to rush something through. It's okay, it's basics, and it gives Tim's thoughts on the matter, but it's by no means a definitive thing. So what I then did, I put together more of a simple catalogue, which is actually available. And this is just simply a pictorial thing. I don't know how well this is going to come up on screen, but it's the brief history of the story, a little bit about Tomar. Hang on, let me see if we can find a chalice, as we've been talking about chalice. There we go. And I mean, pictures of some of the items. There's an awful lot of picture of chalices of various sorts. Again, it's not going to be the final book. Somebody more knowledgeable than me than probably come along and do something in the future. But at least it's a little book that's starting to get the story out there. It's all self-published again, because the usual problem trying to get companies involved, you're poo-pooed and you're blocked and you get made promises and they never happen. So at the end of the day, if you don't do it yourself, it doesn't happen, which is very frustrating. But as you know, Richard, if you don't do it yourself, it doesn't happen, does it? Look at Otto Rahn, do it yourself.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
Yeah, at least we're alive, whereas Tim Wallace Murphy is dead.
Tim isn't. Yeah.
The Tomar Horde has a body count.
It's a long story that we probably need 10 episodes to go through it in sequence. But yeah, poor old Tim, he was very ill when he was working for me. The circumstances of how he's died seems very ambiguous. The last 6 months of his life, how he was out of his house, where he was living, it's all very jumbled up. But the whole story is we've come across so many things in this little sort of weird quest that we've been on that really don't make a lot of sense. You know, if you told everybody, they think you were making it up. They think you're a lunatic. You know, that's a stupid story. That didn't happen, but genuinely it did, didn't it? You know, you know the score.
I mean, it feels as if it's, I don't know, but the last few years I've had the sensation that I was living in some kind of R-rated comic book.
Yeah, it's farcical. Some things have been so absurd, it's almost a comedy program rather than a tragedy. But we're getting there, and you know, if people are interested, if you get some good feedback, we can come dive into the details of the who's and what we've been doing and all the countries we've been running about, and you know, maybe do a program on one specific object or one important thing. I don't know. It's gauging the interest of what people want to talk about, isn't it? Really. We're just starting up a YouTube channel, or I am, which is called Hamilton White Uncensored, which has got not very much of me at the moment, but he's got some funny little clips of Richard at Montsegur and doing his stuff, which is really interesting. So if anybody wants to look, we're going to start loading up some more things and some of more of the contentious things in due course. You can buy the books. Richard's got a whole variety of books. I've got some books. I'm easy enough to find. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You know, if anybody wants to get involved, please feel free. If you've got any ideas, I'm easy to find. Send us some emails. We try and keep on top of things. And, you know, Richard's the same with what you study, isn't it? You know, people are coming to you. You're there. You're not hard to find.
Yeah, well, the quest continues. And I also feel much safer the more that this information comes into the public domain.
Certainly.
Because, you know, provided that nobody knows what's going on, it's all too easy for it to simply disappear and for the contents of one's hard drive to disappear.
It's happened.
The rationale behind putting together the Last Crusade, which will be widely available, I believe, next spring in the US from Inner Traditions under the US title Relic Hunter.
Yeah, you know, I mean, people probably turn around and just, oh, you're a stupid pair of fantasists. You know, you're going on about having your computers hacked. You're going on about being followed. It's all real. You know, the Men in Black are out there. We don't know who sent them. We don't know who's responsible for them. But genuinely, when they turn their attentions to you because there is something that they want to sort of inconvenience you and try to drive you off the face of the earth and shut you up, they've given it one heck of a good shot over the last 18 months. But, you know, fingers crossed, I think we're coming through it now. And, you know, I think it's going to spin. But what we just simply like is to get this stuff out there and let the world see it, because it's phenomenal. It's so important. That's about it, isn't it? You
Indeed.
know?
Well, here's to it.
So I think that's about all we can say for the moment. But as we say, you know, if people like these stories and really want to dig deep into it, we could waffle on for hours and hours and start telling the story of individual pieces and how we crisscross from France, how the Templars and things they did in Occitania crisscross with the research we've done in Scotland. Give us a shout. Have they heard enough from us for tonight, you reckon?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're going to bid the world a goodbye.
You have been tuned to Tales from the Otherworld, coming at you from the heart of the Devil's Pentagram.
This is your host, Richard Stanley, wishing you all a very pleasant journey home.
Richard Stanley's Tales from the Otherworld is produced by Nerd Horror Media in Los Angeles, California. Horror.